All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the LD11 meeting. Want to thank all you guys for joining us here. Let's see. Let's go ahead and get things going. All right. Like I said, if you're wondering where you're at the LD11 February meeting. Want to welcome you. I'm Patrick Brown, the chair of LD11 Democrats. If this is your first meeting, welcome. We hope you get a lot out of this meeting. And if this is like your 100th, 1000th, or you've just stopped counting because the numbers don't go up that high, then welcome back and good to see you. So just want to go over a couple of group norms, meeting norms for how we operate our meetings. First one is with cameras. Like I said, if you want it on during the meeting, cool. If you want it off, that's fine too. We just ask that if you're going to be speaking at any point during the meeting, just turn on your camera if you're able, just so we can see who's talking to us. Otherwise, we just ask that you stay muted during the meeting. If you have any questions or comments, please put those in the chat. I'll be happy to, recognize folks to speak. Otherwise, we want you to be on mute unless, like I said, you're recognized by myself. Any questions, any comments, our board will be monitoring the chat. And so they'll be either answer them directly or I'll answer directly or somebody will know the answer or drop a link or something like that. So definitely feel free to use that chat. Also, if you probably noticed, because February is Black History Month, we're going to have little Black history facts with the slides tonight. So you can learn a little bit more about Black history in Arizona, because a lot of people talk about Black history, but there's a ton of Black history in Arizona. So we're going to kind of highlight some of that as we go through the meeting tonight. All right. If you would like to follow along at home, you can view our meeting agenda. You can either type that link really quick if you want to, or we'll even make it even easier for you, and we will drop that link in the chat. So if you want to view our agenda. So I'll just go ahead and drop that in there right now. So let's get into reports. I'll kick things off. Chair's report. Lot going on this last month. Of course, we're going to pepper some of that information out throughout the meeting. We're going to try and keep from doing a info dump. But one of the first things I want to talk about is I had an opportunity to sit down with our folks at the ADLCC. If you're not familiar with that, that's the Arizona Democratic Legislative, I'm forgetting a C, caucus. I'm sure somebody will put it in the chat what the full acronym is. They're basically the folks that work with people, of course, helping us elect or get reelected Democratic legislators. So they are doing their tour of the state, meeting with LD chairs across the state. So I had an opportunity to meet with them a few weeks ago. Really lovely folks. They're going to be joining us actually next month to kind of give a presentation of what they do, what their work is with just with electoral politics in Arizona. A couple of things we did talk about is because we have been traditionally a blue district, and that we're fortunate enough that we have relatively new legislators that are earlier in their tenure. The conversation was more about kind of talking about LD11 in the future. And a lot of things we talked about is just the importance of building a bench of, preparing folks to run for, state legislature, either if they're, going to, give it a go at the next election, or they're kind of mapping out, thinking like, when someone, is going to term or someone's going to, cross over, what have you, when it's time to do that. And so I definitely really, kind of a couple of things, kind of highlights of the meeting was just having them understand like how our district operates, the importance of our district. We went through the data and numbers of, what we're about. And basically just kind of the need of making sure that they're offering trainings, they're offering resources for anyone who's even considering potentially either running for state leg or even any other office, so that individual can, plan, understand what the commitment is, what needs to go into it, so that it can be as successful a candidate as possible. So just so you know, they're going to be joining us on March. And so if you have questions or whatnot, they'll be here with us and you'll be able to ask those questions. Next thing I want to talk about is blood donation. As part of Black History Month, the American Red Cross is really focusing on turning out especially Black blood donors. One of the reasons why is that statistically Black Americans do not donate blood at say it is a high percentage as other groups, and because the disease sickle cell disease really impacts African Americans at a higher percentage than other groups. That's of course a problem. So they're definitely focusing on really encouraging more African Americans to come out and donate blood, but they want everybody to donate blood. So there are going to be several blood drives going on across the valley during the month of February. I know they had one today that was out at the Renaissance, kind of part of like the Super Bowl weekend roundup, but they're also going to have a couple of more. So we're going to put those in our newsletter. And I'll also drop the link for to sign up for a blood drive. So, if you can give blood, it's really important. If you can't give blood and you know somebody who can, definitely share the information with them. All right. Last but not least, I want to talk about just a little bit about kind of where we want to go with the LD in this kind of, we guys call it the preparing for 2024 year. One of the things that, we as your executive board really believes in is something called shared leadership. And if you've never heard the term shared leadership, what it is that it's not so much we're going to operate strictly as like a top-down thing. It's not like what the chair always wants or what the vice chair always wants. We want to kind of make sure that everyone who's part of this organization, PCs, volunteers, things like that, have some ownership over kind of how we operate. Obviously, one of the things where that happens is, of course, voting on particular initiatives or things like that we're going to do with the LD. But the other part is, of course, having some sort of leadership involvement. And one of the easy ways to be really involved within the LD is that we have our committees. We've been kind of rolling things out slow because we're just trying to get our ducks in a row and just getting into the groove here. But we're going to start talking more and more about becoming a member of either committees or becoming committee chair as part of the LD, because the thing is that to do this work, it takes a group effort, and we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be involved. We have some standing committees that we've always had, but we can always add new committees for things that you're interested in. So, for example, one of our standing committees has always been our fundraising committee. That's traditionally headed by our treasurer, but then other individuals can be a part of that committee to help us raise money and fundraise. However, if someone says, hey, I want to start a committee that focuses on environmental causes within LD11, we can create that committee. You can get other like-minded folks, and we can definitely give an opportunity for you to do that work, and of course share with us what's going on, and also recruit other people to help you. So again, that's going to be something that we're going to be definitely talking more about in the coming days, coming weeks. You'll see it the newsletters and in the weekly updates, and of course kind of leading up to our March meeting, we're really going to kind of formally roll out some of our standing committees. But if you're kind of thinking of something that you would like to be involved with, definitely reach out so we can, get you going, get you established, because again, we want everyone to, have a stake in what we do with this work. Anyway, I've talked a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to our first vice chair, Dave Braun.
Well, I promised you last month that I would spend maybe 5 minutes or so talking about restoration of civil rights for felons who have lost the right to vote. So you don't have to take notes on this, because we're going to post on the newsletter the documents that I'm going to be referring to, which has references to the ARS statutes. But like everything in law, it's not exactly simple. But let's take a go of it. And actually, the Maricopa County Recorder's Office, not the court yet, but the Recorder's Office, has a 2-page document on the restoration of the right to vote, which is a pretty good summary of the law and the procedures and so on. And it will give you a good document to go to and reproduce and stick in whatever packet of information that you may use whenever you go out trying to register for people to vote, or you're walking door to door. You can make copies of it, obviously, and it's good to have. Okay, let's talk about not the restoration of the right to vote, but who loses the right to vote. So, first thing, misdemeanor convictions do not lose the right to vote. They lose other rights quite often. They DWIs, if they've done it enough with a high enough blood alcohol level, even though they're misdemeanors, they'll lose their right to drive, possibly. In fact, probably. But they won't lose the right to vote. And simple theft, shoplifting, petty theft, anything that's handled in the city courts of our incorporated cities or in any of the justice courts where that is the conviction. So the conviction was for misdemeanor possession of marijuana 10 years ago, but it was handled in a city court or a JP court. They did not lose the right to vote, even though other people may have been convicted for the same offense in Superior Court, where it was a felony, and they did lose the right to vote. Confusing right from the top. Anyway, so it actually has to be a felony conviction. That means not a diversion program, not something of that sort. It actually has to be a felony conviction where there's an actual formal sentencing. If there's a sentencing and then as part of it, a diversion, that probably does have to be handled still as a felony until the final dispensation from the criminal charge. So the person would lose their right to vote upon a conviction, but there may be a 2-year probation of no further bad behavior. It basically means this. If you go on in front of the judge physically, and the judge says, I am sentencing you to blah, 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 that is a conviction. And when a person is convicted of any felony, as part of the paperwork, and they'll say, possibly the judge will say, possibly he won't. It doesn't matter whether he says it or not. There will be paperwork sent to the Secretary of State, who will then send it to all the recorders saying, Joe Schmo has been convicted of burglary and armed theft and simple theft and whatever else the counts are, the number of charges are, and his right to vote in Arizona has been suspended. You recorders go look in your records and see if Joe Schmo is in fact a registered voter, because then you've got to cancel his registration on the voting list. Now, this is pretty unique in Arizona. The next thing is when Arizona law says that if you've been a felon and you've been convicted of more than one felony conviction, your right to vote is suspended. And that actually is not even suspended, it's revoked at that point on. And depending upon how the crime was done, if a gun was used, it may be suspended and revoked by law for a number of years. But if you've been convicted of only one felony, only one count of robbery or grand larceny or theft or, bank robbery or whatever it is, but just one count of that, one felony, one conviction. And sometimes they're pled down from a charge of 5 different criminal offenses down to one. If it's only one, at the time of the completion of a whole sentence, your right to vote is restored automatically. Let's say you've been convicted of aggravated DUI, which is a pretty common sort of criminal charge. Somebody blows more than 1.5, maybe they're blowing 2.5, but a pretty significant DUI. And it's handled in the Superior Court. Maybe there was one count of bank robbery or whatever the situation is. If there's only one count, one felony conviction, not 4 or 5 or 7, not more than one, your right to vote is automatically restored after the completion of the sentence. And completion of the sentence means all the sentence. So if you're sentenced to 5 years in prison, and after 3.5 or 4 or 4.5, they let you out, or the governor paroles you, or whatever the situation is, you get out of prison and you have no parole, you have no restoration of money to the victims, that you complete the sentence, absolutely, your right to vote is automatically returned. But you do have to do one more thing. You've got to go now to your county recorder and make application for the right to vote. After all, the Secretary of State told that recorder 5 years before that your right to vote was canceled. So now you've got to go back in there and re-register. So it's automatic. The legal prohibitions bring you back to the status of unregistered voter. And let's say you move to a different county from where you originally were. You still have to, go to your county of residence. And theoretically, of course, in Arizona, if you move from county to county, you normally have to re-register in every county. We don't have statewide registration, which frankly, Representative Quinones, we should have. But anyway, now let's say, and this is what you want to ask. When somebody says, well, and maybe sheepishly sometimes, I'm a convicted felon, I can't vote. You're going to really want to ask, well, may I ask you, was it one charge? Was it 2 charges? Is it 2 separate incidences? Because you can help that person. Because if it's one incident, one time, you can tell them basically, and you paid off the fines, and you've done the time, and you've finished parole, or you finished probation time, you can go back down to Maricopa County Recorder's Office and vote. And the restoration on the right to vote really does explain that that Maricopa County prepared. I don't know whether it was prepared under Fontes or Ricker, but it's a pretty decent and readable document. Okay, let's say it's somebody who's been charged with burglary, and then they stole something from the house itself, so they've been charged with theft. So they got 2 or 3 or 4 counts, and the prosecutor demands, in the deal that's being made or the trial that's being made, they're convicted of the felony counts and they've got 3 of these counts on their record. After they,
Dave, excuse me, I'm sorry, but we're going to try to keep it down. Can you just have another minute more so we can make sure we stay within the time frame of the meeting this evening? I appreciate it.
I will try and really wrap it up, because I'm going to urge you to go to the documents. On those situations, then everything again has to be paid off, but he has to make an application to the Superior Court system in which the conviction occurred. So even though he lives in Maricopa, he's got to file an application in Pima County or Apache County or wherever the conviction was to get his civil rights restored. It can be done by the person doing it himself. It's filling out paperwork. The one final thing I will say is that And it's not that difficult to fill it out yourself. But the one thing I know that judges will look for, because I've done these things, is they will want to see a certain period of time go by from the time of final, payment of the fines or final service of the time in prison. They will want to see a certain period of time go by before they will consider the application for restoration of civil rights, voting rights. So if you've just gotten out of prison and prison was your only sentence, they're going to generally want to see about a year or so, maybe a couple of years go by. They're going to want to see whether you've gotten a steady job, whether you've got steady, housing arrangements. They will want to make sure that basically you're stabilize yourself in the community rather than somebody who is likely to convict again. My experience is most Superior Court judges take this seriously, but are often willing to give people like a second chance. After all, it is the right to vote. It's an indication of citizenship, and the fact that you've made the application, gone through that whole process, means that you're pretty serious about being a person who values his citizenship. And I could say one more thing, Representative Quinones, I think you should make it not just one, charge or one conviction, but one incident. So when prosecutors put 5 different felony charges on one charge or one crime, and they can do that quite easily when there's the first conviction of a bunch of like all the felonies, that's when you should have automatic restoration, because sometimes it's too confusing, very frankly, for those people who are convicted, because you've got to go through all the discussion about whether there was one charge or more than one conviction. Sometimes they don't know. In fact, most of the time they don't know. And as a lawyer, you're going to want to go look up the paperwork to find out whether he's got automatic rights or whether you've got to go through the process of making an application. Sorry, I took more time. Back to you, Patrick.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, this is a lot of great information. I know something that especially a lot of folks who, may have, gotten caught up in the legal system, realize that they actually haven't lost the right to vote or they can get it back. So really good information. We're going to include a lot of this in our upcoming newsletter. And I know that there are also other organizations out there that, that actually have regular events to talk about this stuff. So we'll definitely share that information and hopefully bring them in to, talk some more about it at a future meeting. All right. So that brings us to our second vice chair, Michael Butts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. We are excited to announce we're having our first social hour of the year for District 11, and it's going to be at Barrow's Pizza. You can RSVP. Matter of fact, we hope that you RSVP before the meeting is over tonight. It's going to be on February 16th, next Thursday, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We're looking forward to having you all out and seeing you all face to face and just having a good time. Also, on the next slide here, when we switch over, we wanted to welcome anyone that's interested in joining us to be a precinct committee person. We have 4 new precinct committee people that have joined us, and 2 of which are on the line right now. Actually, I'd like to kind of acknowledge them. Miss Kathleen Harris, I think I saw you. Do you want to give us a wave? She joined the Lowell precinct, and I believe you are a party of one right now. We need to build up the Lowell precinct, and so we're looking to do that. But thank you so much for joining as a precinct committee woman. Thank you. Also next is Chester Bokich. I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly. If I'm not, please correct me. Chester, if you want to give us a wave, I believe I saw you. You are joining the Bassoon precinct. And again, just like Ms. Kathleen Harris, we only have 1 PC, and you are that person. So thank you for stepping up. We're looking to expand in that area as well. So feel free to invite any of your friends or family to come and join our meetings that live in your precinct, and we'll be happy to talk with them and meet them. Also, two additional ones. One you may already know, Ms. Signa Oliver. She joined the Carver precinct, and also Shelby Whalen. Shelby joined the Euclid precinct. So 4 new precinct committee people joined our District 11, and so we're excited about that. And so that brings us up to 53 precinct committee persons so far, and we're looking to increase those even more. So thank you so much, everyone. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Michael. We got one question in the chat for you. Will there be any other socials this month going on? Are we just doing this one social this month?
We're going to start out trying to commit to 1 per month, at least 1 per month. So, but yes, great question.
All right, thank you, Michael. Welcome, new PCs. Like I said, organizations like ours are run by people power. So if you got the people, we'll find you the power. So welcome aboard, and we look forward to you sharing your treasure with all of us. All right. So speaking of the whole shared leadership thing that I started the meeting with, we have an opening on the board for a secretary. Pretty much, I'll give you the quick job description. The secretary, of course, keeps minutes during the meeting. They, especially in this virtual situation, they kind of handle the chat and drop the links, and things like that. Also, the secretary has traditionally been the head of like kind of our communications. That's our social media, email list, things of that nature. Of course, keeping track of our PCs and that information, everything. So if you are interested or would like to learn more about becoming secretary, please reach out. I'll drop my email into the chat, so you can either email me or send me a direct message. The best bet is to email me, because if you send a direct message, I may not remember to write it down during the course of the meeting. But if you send me an email, I will get back to you. Also, for our current PCs, we want to make sure we have good contact information for everyone. This is, of course, so you can stay in the loop with, any announcements, information, things like that. I promise I won't sell your information to anyone again. It was just for a fundraiser for the campaign. I won't do it again. So that's a joke. I didn't do that. I didn't sell anybody's stuff. That's a joke. I didn't really do that. But seriously though, we want to make sure we have good information for everybody. So if you haven't already updated your information with the LD, please do so. You can either do it through the link that's on the screen, or if you got your phone handy, you're not using it for this, attend the meeting, you can just use the QR code and just make sure we got good contact information for you. All right, I'm going to turn things over to our treasurer. Sadia, you're up.
Okay, so as of January 31st, we currently have $1,654.14, and it looks like we also didn't deposit all the ACLU money as of that time, so that's why there might be some differences. On January, we raised around $1,169 from ACLU, and I would like to thank Signa Oliver for the $1,000 donation. So we sent a thank you letter for that, and we currently spent around $240.12. And last month we also donated $100 to the Maricopa Young Democrats, and we spent money on our Google domain, and we also Office Depot for the thank you letter, and all the other admin, like for Zoom and the ACLU fees. And if you guys want to donate, we'll share the link. Recurring donations is very encouraged. We also appreciate those who are our month or recurring donors. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Sadia. Again, like I said, everything we do is through the kind and generous donation of each and every one of you. So yes, this is, like I said, we consider this a building year. This is where you do your fundraising. It's where you start kind of building the money in order to not only just maintain the LD, things like Zoom. Of course, we are also actively looking at going to like an in-person location, possibly hybrid. Of course, we got to invest some dollars in that. But of course, building towards 2024 so that we can fund a lot of the activities that will help get Democrats elected. Of course, all the media and the postage and all that fun stuff as well. So again, like I said, become a recurring member, or wow, it sounds like a PBS thing. Become a recurring donor, and like I said, help the LD out. So thank you. All right. So with our Sergeant at Arms report, I'm going to try and wing it. Sergeant at Arms had to step off the call for just a moment, but he just wanted to share a couple of highlights from things that are going on in the news. One of the big ones, of course, generally speaking, when a governor leaves office, they will, grant clemency or pardons to individuals who are incarcerated in the system. However, our outgoing previous governor decided to really not do that. He granted very, very few pardons or clemency, and frankly, the clemency board that he appointed were not very generous when it comes to those things. So hopefully as time progresses, Governor Hobbs will be able to kind of fill the gap for people who, have either, served their time and got excessive sentences, or there was something weird with that. So hopefully that'll get taken care of. Other big stuff that's going on, and since we have some legislators on the call, I'm going to let them really kind of talk more about this, but the skinny budget died, and how it died is actually kind of interesting because there's a Republican legislator who vowed not to vote on anything unless we got to do over with the election. And many people just thought that was going to be just her being, flexing for the newspapers, but she's actually doing it. So go figure. Like I said, I'll let our legislators get into the weeds of like how that went down. Okay, that's the Sergeant at Arms report that I totally just winged. So we're going to move on to, oh yeah, sorry. Can't believe I forgot about this. There was a State of the Union address yesterday. So if you were not able to catch it, you can definitely watch it on YouTube. I still need to actually watch it. I kind of got bits of it this morning, but I haven't watched it in its entirety. However, just a couple of major takeaways from the President's State of the Union. The first thing is that one thing, especially if you look at polling and some of the concerns, is the kind of enthusiasm gap with President Biden, especially with the polling about kind of polling people asking like are you excited about Biden running for a second term? And those numbers have been uncomfortably low. So one of the things that the president worked to do was to make sure that people still see him as the viable president of the United States, running for a second term. It was kind of one of the things that he wanted to do with the State of the Union address. Like I said, I haven't seen it, unfortunately. Like I said, busy couple of days. I plan to watch it a little bit later, but the consensus is that he made a very strong case that should he decide to run for a second term, that he can be the standard bearer of the party. And frankly, his accomplishments have been very, very significant, if not maybe kind of quiet, and when it comes to being shared with the general public. Of course, it's become a trend in the State of the Union for the president, especially if it's a Democratic president, to get heckled, which is weird because it's Congress and they're supposed to be adults and stuff. But yeah, so apparently President Biden knows how to troll, and I won't ruin the surprise, so you just got to watch it. But I did see that clip, and that's good. Populism and nationalism are in. That is definitely something that the Republican Party seems to be really leaning heavily into, is the concepts of populism and nationalism and all its horrible versions. That was definitely on display with the Republican response to the State of the Union. Believe it or not, there wasn't a whole lot of discussion about China or Ukraine in the State of the Union. There was the whole thing with the Chinese weather balloon and everything, but that really didn't make the speech. One kind of interesting final takeaway is, of course, when we start talking about police reform and criminal justice, Biden really kind of got both parties to really kind of, take a stand on that. Obviously, it's a tightrope issue, for the president, with polling and things of that nature. But yeah, it was a very interesting kind of dynamic in his speech. So again, if you haven't had an opportunity to watch the State of the Union, like I said, you can hop on YouTube and watch it in its entirety, or you can catch the highlights on the news network of your choice. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our special guest tonight. I want to introduce Jolie Amaya. She's a working mom, a former educator and sociologist with an emphasis on K-12 education. She's born and raised in Arizona. Go Arizona natives. And she's very active in the community and passionate about helping students succeed. She is running an organization called Feed Arizona Students. So we're going to go ahead and turn things over to her and let her tell us all about it.
Hi, everybody. Let me see if am I able to share the screen?
Give me just a second. Okay, you should be able to now.
There we go. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Jolie, and I am here representing Feed Arizona Students, #FeedAZ Students. And I'm here to thank you all for allowing me to speak. And I'm here to tell you about our initiative that we are pushing for healthy school meals for all Arizona students. So who are we? We are a grassroots community organization effort to advocate for policy and legislation that will guarantee healthy school meals for all public school students, grades K through 12. And right now our team consists of community members, public education advocates from all backgrounds, and we have multiple school board members on our team, business owners, and just a bunch of motivated Arizonans that are mobilized for this cause. Why school meals? So good nutrition for students affects pretty much their entire lives. So good nutrition means that they'll have more energy for extracurriculars and activities and sports, things outside of the classroom. That way they can kind of get out that energy. Also, good nutrition means that they'll be happier. So they'll have more positive socialization with their peers, with their teachers, with the education staff, just kind of a better overall environment. Also, being well-fed, being happy, getting along with people means that you'll have a better academic performance. So just all around, feeding students is really essential to their education. There's numerous studies that have shown that students, when they're provided nutrition, they excel. Provided good nutrition, they excel. And even with the regulations that we have for school meals, it's actually the optimal nutrition that we can provide because of the regulations from 2010. The nutrition that is inside of school meals, so things that cafeterias serve, has better nutrition than other options. So like bringing lunch from home, and going to restaurants. So the nutritional value is optimal if we're providing those meals from the cafeteria. And there's also a lot of extrinsic benefits when it comes to considering a universal school meal program. There is long-term investment. This is a long-term investment in public education. So when you have happier students, they want to graduate, and then when they graduate, then they'll be more prepared for higher education or for trades. But it kind of keeps that cycle going with students being fed, being happy, wanting to graduate, etc. That's good for our state. Less administrative costs for schools and for districts. So right now there is a federal program, but there's a threshold for people to qualify for that program. And so because of that, there's a lot of working families that don't meet that criteria. So they end up having to pay full price. Additionally, if they do meet that criteria or they want to apply for the federal program, they have to fill out an application for their student every single year. And a lot of that can cause a lot of problems for some families that don't have an address to put on the form. They don't have the income. They're just intimidated. There's just a lot of different problems with requiring families to fill out this form every single year. So we're not technically getting all the federal assistance that we can because there's families that qualify but aren't filling out the paperwork. Anyways, this universal program eliminates all the paperwork. It feeds every student. And additionally, because we live in a digital age, parents have to, or families have to have online lunch accounts for their children. And that also poses another issue with accessibility and just knowledge of having to do that. And a lot of families haven't, they haven't adopted that process. So there's a lot of students that have no access to a lunch account because their families aren't able to set it up. Also, there are a lot of eliminates student lunch debt and collections. There are also a lot of schools and districts that will provide meals to students, knowing that they don't have access to a student account or they don't have the funds, which puts the school and the district into debt because they're going to continue to provide whatever they can for these students because they're starving. And there's a lot of districts that have huge amounts of student lunch debt that just continues to accumulate because we can't, because it doesn't get paid down. Because even with the schools trying to collect on that debt, there's still a lot of families that aren't able to pay. And then when students aren't able to pay, there's also other issues, like sometimes they won't be able to participate in other programs with the school because they have debt. So that's also another stigma for that student. And we want to eliminate all the stigmas that we can so that students can succeed and do their best. The last part of this has to do with the particular type of bill that we want to put into place. There is a bill right now that we are championing, but it doesn't have this same funding structure. So I am going to explain this just in case we end up putting this part into a different bill. So we want to implement a fair funding structure, which would limit the income tax deductions for high income earners. So anybody earning 200 to 250,000 a year would have a limit on the deductions that they can claim that year. And that the money that is generated from that would fully fund and support sustainably a universal lunch program. So some other ideas that we have for the legislation that the Healthy School Meals legislation that we're trying to promote would be grants for cafeteria workers, for wage increases and for kitchen equipment. Because if we're feeding more students, we want to make sure that all the cafeterias and all the schools are well equipped to handle that. We also are considering a 30-minute lunchtime component. So that basically would be 20 minutes of seated time and then 10 minutes to walk to the cafeteria, get their lunch, pay for it, or in this case, not pay for it, but go through the line, sit down, and have that 20 minutes to sit there and have time to digest their food and do all the things. Because right now, a lot of students are rushed and there's just not enough time. So putting something in structured as a requirement will help all the students. Another thing that's important for me is an incentive for purchasing from local food vendors. So the districts use food distributors. So we would want to format legislation to encourage those distributors to purchase first from local vendors, local farmers, local agriculture before trying to purchase outside of a local entity. And then the automatic enrollment is similar to what I was talking about before. So anybody that is eligible, that DES or a different government assistance program deems is eligible for federal fund, for the federal program, would automatically get added to a list that would make sure that we are getting all the federal funding that that we qualify for. So automatically, nobody would have to fill out any paperwork or show any income or anything. They would just automatically be enrolled in this program, and then the federal government would reimburse. So the plan of action, right now, we do have a bill, HB 2238, that is has been assigned to 3 committees. And so we're trying to petition to get that on agendas and then get that passed through the legislature. We do need bipartisan support for this, and we do need to make it on the agendas. So far, we haven't. So we are still pushing for it. But the bill that I alluded to earlier would be a healthy school meals bill, which would specify a little bit more than what HB 2238 is. And also HB 2238 would only cover a year. So it'd be school year 2023 to 2024. And we want to make this a permanent program. So we are pushing for that. So we do ask that you contact your legislators and see if they can help support and push this bill along. But we are going that route. And we are probably going to introduce a different bill next session, specifically a healthy school meals bill, and see how that goes also. With the budget part, we're also going to petition the Hobbs administration to include this as a line item in their budget. We didn't have enough time this last budget. We did send Governor Hobbs a letter, but it was cutting it really close. So we will be a lot more prepared next session and next year with that. But we are trying all of the routes because we want this passed. So if neither one of those gets movement, then we are going to do a ballot initiative. So we're going to collect all the signatures and try and get it on the ballot for 2024. And that's kind of our goal right now because of the bill not really moving too much in the ledge. So how can you support? There's a lot of different ways you can support if you're interested in helping us out. Word of mouth is the best, honestly. So just speaking to people about it, because as soon as you say school meals, people want to talk about it. People are supportive and they want to help our students because it's just kind of a no-brainer. Like, we need to feed our students, right? Share our posts on social media. So you can find us on all the major social medias, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all under Feed AZ Students. And you can share our posts from there. I try to post daily, and anything related to the bill or anything that's like an urgent alert, I post on there too. Also, because we have a lot of school board members on our team, I want as much support for them as possible, especially if they're going to present something on the campaign. And so that's another way, is to go to school board meetings and support them. Contact your local reps, like I had mentioned earlier. Donate to the campaign. We're actually not set up for donations yet, but once we are, we'll take every donation possible. Share materials with anybody that's interested. So if you have a stakeholder or a representative or somebody like that you know personally or something like that might want to speak with me, definitely let me know. You can email or you can message me on social media, or you can email me feedazstudents@gmail.com. And at the end, there'll be like a slide with everything on it. And then once we get to the ballot initiative part, we'll need help getting signatures, doing phone and text banks, canvassing, all of that fun stuff, but we're not there yet. And that's it. So Arizona students deserve healthy school meals for all. Follow us on social media and you can email me. I try to attend a lot of different events. So if you ever see me with my orange shirt, that's me. You can come say hi. Ask me any questions. And yeah, so if anybody has any questions, please let me know.
All right, we do have some time for some questions. So if anyone wants to either drop a question in the chat, we'll read it for you, or you'd like to unmute to ask a question, please do so. All right, well, Jolie, you did such a fantastic job explaining what you do. I think no one has any questions, so it'd be awesome if you could just kind of drop your contact information, your socials in the chat. That way, if people have, they think of something later, they can, definitely chime in with that. All right, so continuing on with the agenda, we have some elected office folks on the line here. I'm going to start with Representative Quinones. That's the first person I see on the screen, so the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, LD11. Hope you're all doing well. Happy Wednesday. I'm going to give you a couple of big picture ideas to give you a sense of what's going on at the ledge over the last few weeks. And then either myself or Representative de Los Santos could answer some questions. So what's going on is the House is 31-29 Republicans. The Senate is 16-14 Republicans. And the only reason why that's so important to note is because that means Republicans control what bills get assigned to committees. And after 5 weeks, you'll be angry to know that Democrats have introduced over 250 bills, and our bills have everything to do with housing, affordable housing, controlling rent to some extent, school lunches, which were just mentioned, transportation, and supporting other measures that Governor Hobbs has increased in her executive budget. Out of those 250 bills, 96 have been assigned to more than one committee, which means the likelihood of them coming out of committee and actually going onto the board for a vote is slim. And after 5 weeks, we have had less than 10 Democrat bills come out of committee. So we are actively working on getting the committee chairs to bring up Dem bills, actively working with Speaker Toma to bring up Dem bills, because we've got some great ideas, but so far they're not getting heard. So that's the big thing. The other thing that I think will make you very happy is we've had 2 votes so far, and all 29 Democrats have voted the same way. The first vote was this Monday to pass what is called the skinny budget, a repetition of the budget that was previously passed. And all Democrats voted in line. And this is what Mr. Chair was talking about. Liz Harris surprised a number of us by voting against it, which means that the skinny budget that the Republicans were trying to pass to then send to the governor, who has already said that she would veto it, did not get through committee. So so that happened, which is good for all of us. And then on Tuesday, something that Democrats have been really focused on is getting the aggregate expenditure limit, which of course impacts all of our schools. We've actively been working on getting that out of the chambers so that schools don't have to worry about how they're going to spend the dollars that have already been authorized for them. And on Tuesday, it passed out of the House 46-14. It needed 40 votes, so we were able to get 6 more votes than we needed. And then today in the Senate, it passed 23-7. So those are a couple of big things that are going on. And then something for all of you to know in terms of how Democrats are working. Every single day where there's a session in February, Democrats are highlighting Black History Month. Every single day, a new member will rise for a point of personal privilege and highlight a Black or African American contribution to our country. And so that's really cool for us. And then tomorrow will be African American Legislative Day at the Capitol. It's a tradition that happens, and our featured speaker will be Mayor Corey Woods from Tempe. So those are some big things that are going on. I will, as always, include my contact information to answer any questions that I can answer and be of support. And I know Mr. De Los Santos has some good information about information that's happening, particularly within his committees that will sort of highlight some of the information that has already been shared with you. So, Mr. De Los Santos.
Thank you, Representative Quinones. Well, first, thank you so much for having me, everybody. Representative Oscar De Los Santos here, 31st day on the job. And if there's one thing I can tell you is that the Republicans are even more unhinged than on the inside than they look on the outside. And they are legislating, pretending, frankly, delusionally, like they have the majority in both chambers and like they have the governorship. And the truth is that they don't. And that is because of people like you. Because of people on this call, we have a Governor Hobbs who can send a veto to all of the terrible legislation that is being passed by the Republicans or attempted to being passed. Because instead of working in a bipartisan fashion with us on the most pressing issues from water to housing to education, what we're seeing is that the Republican Party continues to tack more and more and more to the right. I just got home a couple minutes ago because I was in the Elections Committee, which is one of the committees that I sit on. The others committee that I sit on is Natural Resources, Energy, and Water. And you will not believe the kind of absolutely nutty legislation that is coming before the committee. Just today, we heard hours ago a bill that would have banned vote by mail in the state of Arizona. A bill that would have completely banned your ability to cast your vote by mail in the state of Arizona, which is, by the way, the method that 80% of Arizonans use to cast their ballot. And their argument for this is, it boils down to, well, Donald Trump and Carrie Lake lost, and we don't like it, so we're going to change the rules. They passed it out of committee. Who knows whether or not they'll pass it out of the legislature, but none of that matters because we have Governor Katie Hobbs to veto it. And it's very disheartening. Frankly, it's just a massive waste of time to have their bills, such outlandish legislation, which is not only harmful, but has absolutely no chance of being signed into law. And they continue wasting our time, taxpayer dollars on this kind of legislation instead of coming to the table to find reasonable, common sense solutions to the actual issues that are facing everyday Arizonans. So they're continuing to play games. But again, the good news, and I cannot stress this enough, is that because we put in the work, because you put in the work necessary over the election period last year, we have a governor who can veto all of this BS legislation. And we are on the verge, folks, on the verge of taking the majority in the legislature. We are on the verge of having Democrats control the House, Democrats control the Senate, and a Democratic governor. And that will unlock and unleash an unimaginable amount of good. We would pass legislation. I have here Mr. Quinones introducing legislation to make housing more affordable by starting a first-time home buyer program. I've got legislation making tuition-free public colleges, community colleges, and public universities. I've got legislation creating a universal child care assistance program. I have legislation making the right to a clean and healthy environment an inalienable right in our state constitution. I have legislation canceling medical debt because we believe as Democrats that healthcare is a human right and that nobody should be going into bankruptcy because they have cancer. And we are just a few seats away from making that a reality. So that is not only my legislative update, it is sort of my imploration, my exhortation to come to you and to say that we have got to keep the work up. I know that most of the time it feels like, well, the work of an election happens in the 2-3 months before the votes are cast. That is not true. The work happens today. The work happens now by recruiting other PCs, by recruiting other organizers to this call, by talking to your neighbors and spreading our message. So that is all I have. And I'm sure Mr. Quinones and I are happy to take any questions.
All right, any questions? I see Sandra Kennedy, you have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to ask the question, and I thank our representatives for presenting an overview for the last few weeks. Can you tell me, either one of you tell me, why the Democrats chose not to debate the skinny budget, to put Republicans on the record? I understand we have a Democratic governor, but the Democratic governor should not be used as a pawn that, oh, she's going to veto it.
Honorable Senator Kennedy, it's always wonderful to be in the room, either virtually or in person with you. So I really appreciate the question. As you might recall from your time in the legislature, the idea of passing a budget within the last week of January is absolutely ridiculous. And so we were not going to dignify the Republicans' efforts to overstep the governor who wrote her executive budget, and then the Republicans completely ignored everything. We've met with them on countless occasions and told them this is not going to fly, this is not going to pass. And so we felt that it was a stronger message to not dignify that exercise. And so we let them all do their talking, because we have told them time and again that it was important to pass the aggregate expenditure limit. And so until the aggregate expenditure limit happened, we were not going to dignify their skinny budget.
So now we don't have any record or putting any Republicans on record for anything in the skinny budget.
Ms. Kennedy, the entire skinny budget has been proposed by one member of the Republican caucus in the House. That's Mr. Livingston. And even during the voting process, no Republican spoke out in support of why it was necessary to pass the budget. They lumped 13 bills into one, and then they put it on the board, and they couldn't get through any of them. So that was our approach. Obviously, you're a veteran of this endeavor, so I would welcome any insight that you have, but that was the decision that we made as a caucus to not dignify the skinny sham budget.
Okay, thank you, Representative Quinones, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions for our representatives? Okay, I do want to share a quick message from Senator Miranda. She apologizes for not being able to make it. She's actually still in the Education Committee, and they're debating, basically, I'm paraphrasing just for time, they're basically just trying to end the whole, gun-free zones at our school. So she is vigorously trying to keep that from happening. So I think this is another example of how the Republican Party and the legislature using a lot of valuable time for things that no one wants and helps no one and would get vetoed anyway. So she wanted me to share that with you guys. Let me see, I thought I saw one of our school board members, Signa Oliver, on the call. Do you have anything you want to share about the happenings at Phoenix Union?
Thank you. I'm sorry I am driving, but I didn't want to miss this meeting. I was double booked. But Phoenix Union is gearing up to have a great year. We're going through a lot of our own budget measures. There is and I think we announced it publicly in the meeting last week, that we are looking to renew contracts and, get more resources in the hands of our teachers. So I will report good things as they happen, and I'm very excited to serve the community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the work that you do. All right. So we'll kind of keep things going here. We got a couple of updates with some MCDP and some ADP updates. I'm going to start with the MCDP updates. This one's going to be, at least the one I'm going to do is going to be really quick. MCDP has a really great committee. It is the Voter Registration Committee, and they've been doing a lot of work, did a lot of work last year, going out into the community, getting folks registered to vote. I know that they spent a lot of time at South Mountain Community College, registering voters. They helped us out at the Levine Barbecue last year. And so they are looking for a liaison from LD11 to work with them. Pretty much what the job would be is just, working with that larger committee, because, you live in LD11, all the, the areas, the high traffic areas, the places where it'd be a good spot for doing voter registration. You would kind of be that eyes and ears within our district, and of course, a voice with that group. If you are interested in being a part of this committee, and like I said, there's no limit to how many people we can send. We can send multiple folks, but like I said, if you're interested in being a part of this committee, please reach out to me. You can hit us up at info@southmountaindems.org, and I will get you connected with their chair. She's really awesome. And other MCDP updates. I see that we have our county second vice chair, Tierney Chen, on the call. So I'm going to give her an opportunity to kind of introduce herself to the LD and, say a few words.
Oh, well, thank you, Patrick. It is so great to be here. My name is Tierney Chen. I am the second vice chair, newly elected for Maricopa County. I'm really excited to be boots on the ground and do the work. Arizona is my forever home now as a native of Indiana. And so if I'm going to stay here, I want to just jump right in and do the work to make sure Arizona is a place that I want to raise my son. I'm a former educator here in Arizona. I really, really appreciate all the good information that was shared tonight on the call and the great work that you all are doing in LD11. So thank you for having me, and it's so great to be here.
All right. Thank you, Tierney. And just what a lot of people have learned with the LD11 meetings, you got to be on your toes, because if you show up, you might have to say something or do something. So that's good. Kind of, we don't warn you. We just kind of just say, oh, hey, say something. Or
well, Patrick, my motto is, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So I am always on my toes, ready to do the work. So glad to be.
All right. Okay. So some ADP reports are just updates. You may have heard we had this reorg thing we do every 2 years, the state party. So with that, we do have new state party leadership. I'm not going to read the slides to you, but as you can see, these are our folks who will be represented at the state party level. We're going to, invite them, of course, to come in to, meet LD11. I'm sure a lot of them are doing the rounds. Last month, you guys were, many of you were here to, hear from, at least candidate Yolanda Bejarano. Now she is ADP chair Yolanda Bejarano. So we're going to make sure we're going to invite her back so she can give us updates on what's going on at the state party level. Also, there was one resolution that was passed. I'm going to give the overly simplistic and very basic explanation of this. If you'd like to know more, we're going to put it in the newsletter, and you can try and figure out what it means. But simply put, what it is that we have DNC rules that dictate the equity of our state party. And that basically simply means that, we need to have an appropriate ratio of male and female females within, the leadership of the party. It's if you were on the ADP reorg meeting, that's why, when it came to like, if, one person was elected, we had to make sure there was another person from, the different county and things like that. Because I'm being super simplistic and really kind of, basic with this. So we kind of ran into some challenge just because when this rule was made, our society hadn't quite evolved on certain topics such as gender identity, things of that nature. So what this resolution did was work to address that. I know, like I said, that was a really vague answer. It's only because just because of time, I don't want to give like a 45-minute explanation. But if you would like to know more, we'll definitely share the full resolution so you can see what it says. And if you have questions or would like to know more, I'll be happy to talk with you. Or I can also direct you to our equity moderator, Damien. And I always mess up Damien's name, but Damien will be able to help you out, kind of suss out what it means. So let me see. That is all. At least we have the report. We'll go ahead and open up things to any community announcements. We ask that you keep your announcements to 1 minute. Otherwise, our Sergeant Arms will mute you, and so just keep it to 1 minute. I am going to recognize Signa Oliver because I know she's driving and she had something she wanted to share. So I'll let her kick things off.
Hey, just one last quick thing that I didn't do that I want to do for the senator and representative. Thank you so much for getting the AEL limit lifted this year. You have no idea how us on the school boards appreciate you and everything you do to support us. I just wanted to say thank you directly to them.
All right. Any other announcements?
Patrick, this is Shams.
All right, go ahead, Shams.
Hello, everyone. It was a wonderful meeting, nice updates from our legislature and wonderful presentation from the Miss Julie. We are having a Levine barbecue. We means the Levine Community Council on February 25th, which is going to be on Saturday from 11 to 4 p.m. at Cedar Chavez Park. If you'd like to get a booth, the deadline is February 13th, which is on Monday, and hope to see you there. There will be a lot of fun activities. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Shams. Any other announcements? Okay, announcements going once, announcements going twice. All right, thank you guys for spending a part of your Wednesday evening with us. We always, value, each and every one of you guys who take some time to not only, get informed about what's going on, but of course, sharing your information, your ideas, the activities that are happening. If you missed anything that we talked about, it was a link or something, we recorded this meeting and it will go out as part of our newsletter, and it will also be on our YouTube page. So if you heard something that you kind of go like, whoa, I had to step away for whatnot, I missed this, you can always catch the recap. Also, we'll include all the important links in our newsletter that'll come out on Sunday. With that said, thank you for attending the meeting. We'd love to see you in person on Thursday for our social hour. Link is still in the chat, so definitely RSVP for that. And again, like I said, it's the legislature's in session. There's so much stuff going on. Please, stay connected, follow. Oh, and I also want to remind you guys, if you live in District 8, City Council District 8, there's an election coming up. There's a runoff election. So ballots should be dropping, I want to say February 14th. So that's, Valentine's Day. So it's not that far away. So, make sure that, when you're picking up that card and candy and that, stuff, bear for your special somebody or for yourself, nobody's judging. Make sure that, you check to make sure you have that ballot if you live in District 8 and you vote. So with that being said, have a good night and we will see you next time.